there are some teachers who consider themselves to be progressive and some that consider themselves to be traditional. And the progressives have the desks of the children in groups, and the children are sort of looking at each other. And the teacher might move amongst those desks, keeping the children on task, and consider themselves to be more facilitators of learning rather than teachers. A more old-fashioned traditional teacher stands at the front of the class, the desks are in rows, the children are looking at the teacher, and the teacher is the person driving the bus. And I always say, teacher drives the bus, children are on the bus, and you keep them on the bus. So sometimes little Johnny's looking out the window, oh, got to get Johnny back in. Little Amy is chatting to her friend, oh, got to get little Amy back in, and so on. Now, there's a difference there between teacher-led learning or child-led learning. Then there's also a difference. So our teaching methods are different. Now, I say different. There will be teachers across the country who do this. It's just that they are scattered about. At Michaela, all of the teachers do that. And I have to say that over the last 50 or 60 years, there are far fewer of those types of traditional teachers than there used to be. So the PGCE, the training that teachers get to become teachers, it's all progressive. And it really is practically without exception, very progressive. In fact, too often the teacher training institutions don't even recognize the traditional side to things. So, it's, a couple do, but generally speaking, when you do a PGCE, you are bombarded by the progressive viewpoint, and they don't even realize that there is an alternative. And that was certainly the case up until 2010, when Michael Gove, who was the education secretary then, changed things quite substantially, I would say, in this country, so that now there is a discussion about how important knowledge should be in the classroom. It used to be that it wasn't important at all. Nowadays, there's at least a discussion. Should we be focusing more on knowledge, or should we be focusing more on skills? The progressives are about skills. The traditionalists are more about knowledge. So we are a school that's filled with traditionalists. And so our teaching methods are different across the board in that way. And then the other way in which we're different is in terms of behavior. Now, there are other schools where behavior will be strict, is what I'd say. We're not the only ones on that. I suppose it's the combination of both the traditional teaching and the strict behavior that is more rare. And what do we mean by that? Well, we have corridors that are silent. People get very annoyed about that. They say, why would you do this to children? I always say, well, the alternative of them beating each other up in the corridors is not very nice. I don't know why, why people have such a problem with silence. It means that the children move very quickly to their lessons in about a minute and a half. It maximizes our lesson time. When you have children arriving at school with the reading age of a 7-year-old, when they are in fact 11 years old, you want as much time in the lessons as possible in order to catch them up. So it's important to remember that about 20% of our children at 16 leave school functionally illiterate and functionally enumerate. And when people say, oh, you're oppressing children, I'll tell you what's really oppressive: not being able to read for your whole life, not being able to count your change in a shop, So I think it's really important that children get taught these basics. And I think that it's best done through traditional fashion with high expectations of behavior.